been warning for years about, well, you've been warning that there's been too much construction in U.S. real estate. There was a tsunami of oversupply. Here we are now. How do you think that's going to affect the market? Where are the winners and losers going to be sector by sector?
Well, I guess I'd start by identifying the obvious. I think probably the number one victim is going to be retail. And our retail was already feeling the effect of e-commerce. Now you've added e-commerce and density, and I think there's very little doubt that we already had a very significant oversupply in retail. So I would think that retail is probably going to take the biggest hit. The second biggest hit is going to be hospitality. Again, we built a lot of hotels in the last 5 years, and we were already beginning to see oversupply affecting RevPAR and affecting occupancy. Unquestionably, this is going to dramatically make things much worse, and I would not at all be surprised if just like we won't see a lot of retailers reopen. I don't think we'll see a lot of hotels. I think we'll see a lot of hotels that basically can't reopen. I mean, generally speaking, everybody has been focused on when is this, going to end. Nobody's really been focused on the question of what does it cost to reopen, and how well are we capable of undertaking that cost. And I think that's very much an unknown at the moment. Multifamily is probably doing the best, but manufactured housing is for sure doing terrific. Warehousing has been, the flavor of the month for the last 3 or 4 years. My own sense, and this is just my own sense at this point, is that an awful lot of warehousing has been built in anticipation of demand, and I think that this is certainly going to reduce the demand element. So I would think that the warehousing space is likely to be oversupplied, nothing like hotels or retail. So that kind of gives you a flavor of what I think. I mean, I think that the single family house rental business that has been extraordinarily strong and led to the creation of a bunch of public companies, I think is also likely to be affected because whereas in an average EQR apartment complex we have 300 units, in a single family house you have 1 unit. And if that one tenant, loses his job, you could end up with a significant vacancy factor in that arena.
Sam, if we take retail and hospitality for a moment, the malls that aren't going to reopen, the hotels that can't reopen, or at least can't reopen at a cost basis that makes economic sense, is there value left to those assets? Or do they become, what the residential blocks in Detroit and Cleveland became after the financial crisis?
That's a very, very good question, Erik. I don't think anybody knows the answer to that question. In all the discussions long before the virus about retail, the argument was, well, e-commerce is going to take a lot out of the retail space, but after all, retail always, in effect, had the best corners. Well, the best corners are defined as where the traffic is. But if the overall level of traffic diminishes, then the definition of best corners doesn't sound quite the same way. And so it would seem to me that we're going to end up with a lot of retail space that's just I hate to use the word falling apart, but pretty close to that. and it's going to take a long time. I mean, I used to talk about when they overbuilt all the strip centers, and I used to say that we're going to run out of churches to fill the big boxes that are empty, because a lot of churches ended up taking advantage of that and taking advantage of that space. But there's more of that space out there than there are new churches to get created.